Hey there folks, today I'd like to take a casual peek into the Avengers Movie Series Thor action figure set by Hasbro. This set was first available in 2012, shortly before the release of the live action movie of the Avengers. This set is a Walmart exclusive, and I did purchase this at Walmart and paid about $16 for this set. Now, taking a look at the Thor figure here in the packaging, it may look familiar, and that's because it's a redeco of a previous release of the Thor figure from the Thor the Mighty Avenger line. There are differences between the two figures, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at that once we get this guy out of the package. Now, this set normally comes included with a display base, but as you can see here, the display base on this particular set is missing. And I did not want to pass up on this figure set at the time because it was the only one available and was the first I've ever seen of the Thor figure. So I went ahead and picked it up anyways, and we'll go ahead and show what the display base looked like from another figure set. Now, taking a look here, we have the back of the packaging, and we have a picture of Thor there, as well as the base. You can see several bases actually, and down here we have a description of Thor from the movie, and along the side we have other figures from the Avengers line, starting out with Iron Man there, and Captain America, Hulk, Hawkeye, and Loki. Now we'll be right back and have this Thor figure here out of the package. Alright, we're back and we have the Avengers Thor out of the package. Now, this video is really going to be more of a comparison than an actual peek into the figure, mainly because this is just a redeco of a previously released Thor from the Thor Mighty Avenger line. There are differences between the two figures, and that's where we're going to do the comparison, but it's essentially the same figure as far as articulation and the majority of the sculpt. And we're going to spend more time focusing on the differences between the two releases of the figure. And to start off, we're going to actually take a look at one item that was supposed to be included with the Avengers Thor figure, but was not included in the Thor Mighty Avenger Thor, and that's the display base. Now, my particular set, the display base was missing. I don't know if it was someone forgot to pack it in to the set during the distribution process, or if it was actually removed by someone prior to me getting to the set. But I do have a display base from another Avengers set. All of the Avengers 6-inch line figures came included with the display base, and they were all essentially the same. And the display bases look like this. I actually have 3 of them right now. I've opened at least 3 Avengers sets already. And these are basically, I guess, interconnecting display bases, which is kind of neat, interlocking. And you can see the pattern of 3 hexagons here sculpted into the display base, which is pretty cool. And there is also an Avengers logo on the middle hexagon there. Pretty nice. And the display base has 3 different pegs, one on each of the hexagonal tiles. And you can place the figure onto any of these pegs, depending on how you have it posed, I guess, or have the bases configured. Now, I did mention that the bases are interlocking, and they've got these throughout the edges of the base, basically a pattern of an outer peg, inner peg slot, or I should say slots and inner slots there. And they're meant to be, I guess, joined together with other bases to expand your display, you could say. And you can see I put 2 of the bases here, and I'll put a third one here. So if you have multiple sets and multiple bases, you can link them all together to form, I guess, an essentially one huge display base to put your figures on, which is nice. And not only can you join them side by side, you can actually put them one on top of the other. That hexagonal pattern to the tiles allow you to stack them one on top of the other, which is pretty neat on there. And I believe these were essentially from HeroClix gaming tiles, and then that Hasbro just repurposed as display bases, which is kind of neat on there. And you can get multiple, I guess, stacked display bases, which is very, very cool. So, pretty nice, and it's made of a sturdy plastic on there, so you don't have to worry too much about warpage on there, and it's actually pretty functional. Now, taking a look at the Avengers Thor here, and again, I gotta really just basically focus on the comparisons between this Avengers Thor and the Thor the Mighty Avenger Thor figure, and I'll put them side by side here, and you can see the base body design is essentially the same. The only differences are really in the paint, and the one major difference being the head sculpt. And first, let's go ahead and take a look and compare the one accessory that comes included with both figures, and that's Mjolnir, the Uru hammer that each of these figures possess. And we're going to go ahead and take them off the hands here, and I'll do a comparison. Now I'm going to have the Avengers versions on the left hand side and the Thor the Mighty Avenger version on the right. And you can see it's basically the same sculpt here. And the differences, of course, being the paint application. Now, the Avengers version of Mjolnir here is a little darker. It looks like they added a darker gray wash or silver wash, which actually I do like a little bit better than the Thor the Mighty Avenger hammer. This one does look cleaner, but the Avengers one looks more, I guess, naturally worn, and it looks a little bit better in that it looks more metallic as opposed to the one on the right here. It looks a little plasticky, a little too clean to be, I guess, metallic-like. And you can see more the paint detail differences between the two. Now, with this darker wash on the Avengers version, it does make it appear to look a little smaller on compared to the Thor the Mighty Avenger one. This one looks a little bit bulkier, and I think it's really more the paint wash. They're essentially the same, just the differences in the paint. Now, on the handle here, it's hard to tell, but the version from the Avengers, it uses a flat brown as opposed to a glossy brown on the Thor the Mighty Avenger on there. And I actually do prefer the Thor the Mighty Avenger handle compared to the Avengers handle here. One of the Avengers version is a little warped than mine, but it also looks more plasticky compared to the Thor the Mighty Avenger. And then you have the handles here, or handle strap, and that's basically the same. Again, just the differences in the plastic there, one being a little glossier than the other. So, but these are the Uru hammers of Mjolnir for the Thor figures. Now, back to the actual figures, and you can see the one major difference in the between the two figures, and that's the head sculpt. We're just going to go ahead and take a look at the Avengers version, because I've already done a video on this version here. But on the Avengers version, he's unhelmeted, which is nice, because throughout the film, he does not wear the helmet in the Avengers film, while in the Thor: The Mighty Avengers, that Thor movie, he only really wore it in essentially one scene in the entire movie, and they decided to go with a helmeted version on the Thor figure, Thor the movie figure. Now back to the Avengers one, you could see an unhelmeted Thor, and I really love this head sculpt, especially compared to the helmeted one. This one, the likeness to the actor that portrays Thor, I believe it's Chris Hemsworth is his name, is actually pretty good, and I really do like the sculpt on that, and especially the eyes. He's got a very stern expression on his face, but the eyes, I think, really sell the figure, the head sculpt. It looks very much like the actor, and I really like it. And also, with the Thor figure here, the likeness is okay, but it's kind of obscured with the helmet, so you don't really get to see the full effect of the, I guess, likeness. But also, this version, the eyes were a bit wonky. On a lot of the Thor figures, you really had to look for I guess a good eye application on the Thor line. But on the Avengers line, well, I only found this one figure, but thankfully the eye application is actually pretty good, and it's actually quite nice, and I really dig it. And of course, the hair on the figure is actually done very well too. You can see the sculpt on the hair. It's the individual strands of hair, and that's nice. And also the paint on here, a mixture of darker and lighter blonde on the hair. It looks very nice, very well done, and doesn't look sloppily painted on. It actually is done very well in the paint. I really do like it. And of course, you got the beard of Thor there. It's not too bushy or too thin. It looks just about right on there, and is actually pretty cool. Just notice I do have a bit of paint slop on the neck area, which is unfortunate. It looks like a little bit of the blue got on there. But overall, it's a great head sculpt. It's one I wish they had in the Thor version of the figure, but they included a helmeted version. But this one here is actually very, very nice, and actually I think it's worth getting alone just to have this nice head sculpt here. Now, taking a look at comparisons on the rest of the figure here, the one major difference between the two versions is the paint application. And this, I have mixed feelings on the Avengers version, because basically the Avengers version does not really have a wash throughout the figure, while the Thor version does. And that's really evident with the scale mail armor along the arms. You can see in the Thor version on the right, you have a black paint wash. You can see in the recesses of the armor black paint, and this one is essentially devoid of that altogether. It's just basically gray plastic, and the Thor version does have a metallic silver painted along the arms there, so it does show up a little bit shinier in person, while this one is just basically gray plastic, a little bit shiny, but not enough to where it looks like armor. So I believe this figure would have benefited with a brushing of silver along with a wash of black on there, and that also extends to the arm gauntlets there. And you can also see that the cloth sculpt of red there is just plain plastic, not painted like the Thor version there. As far as the torso armor, it is a little bit different. It's got a brighter blue on the Avengers version here. I think that's because there's no wash applied anywhere on this version of the figure, so it makes it a little bit brighter blue. which is nice. For either case, it doesn't bother me between the two versions there. And turning the figure around, you can take a look at the cape. Essentially, the cape is the same between the two figures. I really don't notice any difference between the two. They didn't apply any paint wash to either cape or highlights, so it's essentially the same. Even the material and thickness on the capes is still the same. And I did have a problem with this Thor version being the cape being a little bit too thick. And not rigid, just thick plastic. And it's the same with the Avengers version here. And does, in a way, provide stability when you're standing the figure straight up. But when you have a figure in a pose, the cape does get in the way just due to the very thick nature of the cape. Provides a little obstruction in the posability of the figure. Taking a look at the differences some more on the rest of the figure. You see the leggings, they're essentially the same on here, and again, really not much of a paint wash applied to the lower legs here. And you can also see the differences here in the shin guards. It's darker in the recesses of the metal portion of the guard, but on the Thor version, you can see the additional paint wash. It's much darker in there. And also the boots themselves. The Thor version have a glossy type finish to the boots, while the Avengers version is more flat. And I actually like the flat version a little bit more. It looks more like boots in real life compared to the glossy version on the Thor. So that's one thing I really do like compared between the two, is the finish on the boots. It's actually quite nice on the Avengers version. So essentially they are the same figure, except for, I guess, a different head and paint application between the two. Now, going over articulation for this Avengers Thor, the head is on a bald hinged joint, so you can get the head all the way around. You can get the head up and down and side to side, as well as front to back. There's this sort of sliding mechanism just due to the nature of both the ball and the hinge combination. Now, if you slide the head forward, you can have the head look upwards just a tad bit more, as opposed to having the head pushed backwards. That's mainly due to the sculpt of the hair there. The arms on this figure do go all the way around at the shoulder, and they do go out and in, as well as all the way around at the bicep area. There are double hinges on the elbows, allow the arms to bend in and straighten out. The hands do go all the way around at the wrist. And the torso is, I believe, on a bald joint. Allows the torso to bend downwards slightly, up and back, but the cape does prevent a lot of the articulation movement on the torso, as well as all the way around on here, and even side to side. So you can get some poses, but especially backward posability is limited due to the cape here. There is no waist articulation. I believe they did this for the torso to allow the twist to the side for the waist. Now, the legs are joined at the hip with a bald hinged joint. Allows the leg, with the manipulation of the hip here, to go upwards. Whoops, looks like I just broke my figure. Unfortunately, I put too much stress on that, and that really sucks. Alright, we are back, and I have a broken leg Thor here. Now, I was going to mention that the hips were a bit tight, and I guess they were a bit too tight, because I barely even moved that leg, and it just snapped right off. Now, fortunately, the Thor, the Mighty Avenger, version of the leg is essentially the same. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the articulation of the leg there. And I placed the unhelmeted Thor head on the Thor the Mighty Avenger version. But essentially, they are the same, but on the Thor version, it is much looser, so it's a lot easier to move, as you could see here. The leg just swings around on that pivot much easier on the Thor version. But it's, like I said, essentially the same. So you can move the leg forward, down, back, even out to the side on the Thor version. And the leg also does go all the way around at the top of the thigh. The knees do bend, double jointed hinge on the knees, which is nice. And the feet are on a hinge swivel joint, so you can bend the foot downwards and upwards, as well as move the foot all the way around. Now, I was going to say that I really do like the Avenger version, mainly because of the paint on the boots here, and of course the head sculpt here, but I can't do much about this other than try to repair the leg by maybe sticking a metal rod into the post here and super gluing it, and hopefully that'll allow this to be fixed. But I think just even a little bit of stress would probably destroy the leg again, but may just have to find another version if I really want to. But I'm not even sure if I'm going to have to now, since I have the Thor version, which is the same, got better paint apps on the arms, and the head fits just nicely on this version here. So this is my casual peek into the Avengers, and Thor, I guess I should say, version of the Thor action figure by Hasbro. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.